That's my mother's name. And whenever I have the opportunity to mention my mother when I speak to people, I always do. I believe about myself that I am the man that I am because my mother is the person that she is. My mother was my first teacher. She was an English teacher before I was born. And it's my mother that I really have inherited my love of literature and the written word. You see, my mother is a voracious reader and has always had at least 2, sometimes 3 books going simultaneously for her own reading pleasure. I received in my mother's care, from my mother, the very important information when I was growing up that reading is as essential to being human as is breathing. And I recognize that I'm one of the lucky ones. I had a mom who was fiercely invested in me reaching my highest potential in life. You see, I don't believe that it is possible for a human being to reach their highest potential unless they're a reader. My mother taught me a lot of things, not the least of which was that I would one day grow up and inherit a world that would be oftentimes hostile to my presence, simply because of the color of my skin. And she knew that the best way to equip me for that future, the best thing that she could do for me, was to provide me with a quality education, an education that meant I would be able to compete on a level playing field with what I refer to as my melanin-challenged peers. I'll let that sink in for a second. So I got that very important example that reading is really important in life. My mom not only read to me when I was a child, she read in front of me, and I think that's a real important thing for us to remember in terms of setting an example for our children and our charges, that they absolutely are paying attention, and that which we place emphasis on is what we are communicating in very subtle yet powerful ways, what we feel is important in life. It has been amazing to me as I have grown up and come to do what it is I do, that literature and the written word has played such an integral part in my life as well as my career. When I was a kid in Sacramento, California, I read a lot of science fiction literature. And it was not often, it was fairly rare for me to encounter heroes in the pages of those novels who looked like me. Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future was revelationary to me, because what Star Trek said to me in the 70s was that when the future comes, there's a place for you. And that meant the world to me. Having grown up in the age of television, I cannot impress upon you the importance of children seeing themselves reflected in the popular culture. So seeing Nichelle Nichols on the bridge of the Enterprise meant the world to me. The Star Trek universe and the decisions that Gene made in terms of the creation of that universe were absolutely the kind of world that I wanted to live in, a place where we had resolved all issues of race and class and economy and sex. It was and continues to be the kind of world that I strive to reflect and create in my life. So Star Trek and the science fiction literature that I read has always been important to me. I believe that science fiction literature invites us to contemplate what I believe are 2 of the most important words in language, in combination. Those 2 words being, what if? What if? And that invitation to contemplate the what if is really the key, in my view, as to how we unlock what is our own unique superpower as human beings, and that is the power to imagine. I know that there was some child who watched those early episodes of Star Trek and saw Kirk pulling out his communicator from the back of his belt and flipping it open and calling Scotty on the ship and saying, Scotty, beam me up. That kid grew up, became an engineer, a designer of product, and is responsible for a piece of technology more prevalent than the toaster. Have you ever seen or used yourself a flip cell phone? That which we focus our attention upon is what we tend to create in the world. And Star Trek in particular has really been responsible for all sorts of technological advances that we enjoy now. The Bluetooth ear device, that is inspired, I know, by Lieutenant Uhuru's earpiece. The tablet computer itself, we carried them on the Enterprise D all the time. So the link between literature, the imagination, and the world in which we live is absolutely inextricable. We are at a particularly opportune moment in history because of the engaging nature of the technology that we've created. And if we don't use that technology in the service of educating our children, we will have missed the opportunity of the millennium. Television was simply the technology that we used on Reading Rainbow in the 80s because that's where our kids were hanging out. In the 80s, television was where they tended to congregate. And so that's where Reading Rainbow went in our mission to meet kids where they are and take them where we want them to go. If you want to reach kids today, you need to be in the digital realm, which is why we have reinvented Reading Rainbow for this new generation of digital natives. We have proven with the Reading Rainbow app that we can get kids to come to this very engaging technology to read books. Kids come to the Reading Rainbow app reading about 200,000 books a week, which for me is an absolute game changer. It proves to me that it works, that the engagement factor of these tablet computers, of this digital realm, works in our favor. I believe that storytelling, because it is such an integral part of the human experience, every culture on the planet has a tradition of storytelling. We can teach our children anything we want them to learn. And all we need do is use what I know to be one of the most powerful ways we communicate with one another as human beings: moving pictures and sound. Just think of how much you've learned from movies. It was really why I believe Reading Rainbow was as effective as it was for all of those years, because we matched the literature, the written word, with the visual, the video field trip. So whether you were a visual learner, an auditory learner, or a kinesthetic learner, there was something there for you in the combination of the storytelling that involved the books and the real world experience through the video field trip. So that's what we're doing with the Reading Rainbow product in the digital realm. We are a virtual library, a service of books and videos that are tailored to allow kids to self-direct their experience of education through exploration. And that's another one of these opportunities that this technology gives us, the opportunity to place in their hands more of the reins, really, the reins to their own guided experience of educating themselves through exploration. I believe that every human being on the planet has a birthright to be literate in at least one language. And if you are, you have the opportunity to educate yourself. I believe that if you can read, you are, in my absolute bottom line definition of the word, free. You're free because no one can dominate you with their point of view. No one can pull the wool over your eyes. No one can enslave you with their will. You have the ability to educate yourself, to pick up a book, take a look, to go anywhere in the world in your imagination, to know that the world is a place of vast experience and opportunity, and that you can find your place in the world if you only expose yourself to enough of that variety to find that which you resonate with.